Hey, Iostix here. I am a professional FPS coach and former professional coach for Overwatch League organizations like the New York Excelsior and the Boston Uprising, with now more than 5 years of professional coaching experience under my belt, running the biggest private coaching business over at iostix.com and helping out players for free over on my Discord's Ask Stux Anything channel. To celebrate Overwatch 2 finally getting into beta, you can use discount code FIRST33 to save 33% on your entire coaching order over on iostix.com. Yeah. Why do you have this many accounts, by the way?
So I had this thing where it's fucking stupid and it's dumb. I shouldn't do this because it hurts more than helps. But I had this thing where, like, because I have so much time throughout the day to play, I would have a goal where if I lost 2 in a row, I would swap.
Do you see the problems with that?
Yes, because it's like it's not help. Well, I know it's bad, but I don't know why. Basically.
So what's the point behind ranked? Like, when they designed ranked, what was the guiding goal that they followed?
Skill rating and like fluctuation and going up and down.
No, for the player base. When they created ranked, what was the point? Why does the game have ranked? Besides giving people something to work towards.
To separate skill ratings based on proper skill. So if I go down, that's the SR that I'm actually at.
So the point is, so the opposite of matchmaking is, Counter-Strike 1.6, and everyone just, people just host their servers and then anyone can join. And I don't know if you've ever seen like a fucking score screen from Counter-Strike 1.6, but you it's very common for someone to be like 40-2, and then you have a bunch of people at the bottom who like die 20 times and have like 1 kill,
Right.
So there's a very, very massive skill disparity. But game development studios have realized that from a user retention perspective, that isn't very smart, because the people who are usually at the bottom of the scoreboard are the new people. So they join the game, they go 1-20, they uninstall the game. So what you end up with is you have games that are very, very casual, unfriendly, and they have really, really dedicated fan bases. That's why games like Quake Live or the new Unreal Tournament or whatever, like those games that came out, aren't really getting a lot of mainstream appeal, because they fostered these very, very elite communities that are very difficult to get into. So the point behind matchmaking is the end goal is to give everyone a 50% win rate. So when you are doing well, they're like, okay, this guy's doing pretty well. We need to kind of, make games a little harder for him so that he doesn't win as much. And on the other hand, if someone is losing, they're like, okay, this guy is losing. We need to cut him a little bit of slack. Okay, so now you need to think about the implications of what you're doing, because you're basically making it impossible for the game to properly matchmake. So let's say you're on account A, and you lose 2 games. And then you go on account B, and you lose 2 games there. Okay, let's just say you only have 2 accounts for simplicity's sake. So now you've lost 2 games on one account, 2 games on the other. So now, since you lost 2 games on account B, you're like, okay, I'm done with this account. I'm going to swap over to the other account. Okay? But that is very, very confusing for matchmaking. Okay? In this case, it wouldn't really make a big difference, because both accounts are at the exact same state. You've lost 2 games on both accounts. Okay?
Right.
But you don't always end your session on a loss. What happens if you lose 2 games on an account, and then you swap to another account where your last 2 games were actually wins, right? So you're already having a pretty bad day, you're already underperforming, and the game sees that. The game sees on account B that you just lost 2 games, so now it wants to make the next game easier for you, right? To kind of keep your mental from just going full tilt. It wants to adjust the balance. But instead of giving it the chance, you go on a different account where the matchmaker thinks, this guy didn't just lose 2 games, this guy just won 2 games, so now I'm going to make the game harder for him. Do you kind of see where this is going?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so you're basically just kind of, you're preventing the game from preventing you from tilting.
Yeah.
Because this is how you go on like huge loss streaks. You lose 2 games on one account, then you lose 2 games on another, and 2 games on another. So technically, you're on a 6-game losing streak. But once you jump on the 4th account, the game doesn't know you're on a 6-game losing streak. All it knows is that maybe you won your last game on that one, or maybe you lost your last game. But exactly, that's why it's really, really detrimental to continuously swap accounts, because you're making it very, very difficult for the game to accurately gauge your skill. You know, because in order to accurately gauge your skill, it needs a significant sample size. A general rule of thumb is that the first 50 games of a season are completely useless. Because during those first 50 games of a season, the system just needs to collect data. It just looks at those 50 games and it tries to look for patterns, right? But let's say you have 5 different accounts, and let's say that you play them equally. All of a sudden, you know, worst case scenario, you've played 250 games in a season, and the game still has no fucking clue where you're at.
Right, because it's all dispersed.
It doesn't know that it's the same person playing on those accounts. So you're making it very, very difficult for the game to put you into fair matches. And what that can lead to is into this kind of Smurf syndrome, where you're actually having like a really, really good day, you know, like you're performing pretty well, but the account that you swap onto has a completely different idea of your skill level. And then like what ends up happening is that you're in a lobby where like you're the best player, but your team is worse than the enemy team. Does that make sense?
Right.
So you're
that's what it felt like all day yesterday and today, to be honest.
Exactly. So it feels technically like you're doing well because the enemies are bad, but not well enough to carry your teammates who are even worse than the enemies. And that is like peak frustration. That is like super, super, super duper frustrating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does actually, because so like this game has 2 Smurfs on it. It says the jackhammer is that's a 3700 Ash main. And so yeah, that makes sense now, because that actually helps me understand MMR and things like that. Because I will, like my high SR accounts, I will only ever play on when I feel like I'm playing very well.
And that is a problem.
Yeah. So
because every single time you play on that account, it's going to think that you're like better than you actually are, because you actually are. Like this is the equivalent of like dating someone and like being fake, you know?
Right.
Like you can keep it up for a few weeks, but eventually the real you is going to come out, and then you realize, oh damn, we're not compatible, you know? It's kind of the same thing here, where like if on that one account you only present yourself whenever you're having a really good day, whenever you're just feeling it, like the skill rating system thinks that the player who plays that account is fucking insane, because it doesn't see all of the off-day games on the other accounts.